What's up, man?
Yeah, I was gonna say you got Michael Hill. I know you know him. Steve Clifford. Shout out to Steve.
Yep. What's
Joining us
up?
here, and yeah, man. So I know there's a couple guys you know, man. So good humans. So we're gonna dive into all things you, and then you and I'll chat a little bit. These guys will come in for some Q&A. So just an easy hour, man, and we'll just have a good time. But before we even jump in, dude. Where the two give me the lowdown on the Tupac in the background. I mean, I don't know. I look a bunch older, man. I'm guessing you and I are probably around the same age, but I look older because of the gray. But yeah, so give me the background of the Tupac, man.
You got that silver fox beard, man. I'm jealous.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
starting with a little bit of it right here, but my wife loves it, so I'm hoping some more comes in.
Get some
Yeah,
more of that, man. Yeah.
I'm 44, so I don't. How old are you?
45. Yep.
45.
Yep.
Tupac. I listened to him all through high school and all through college, and he was a journey for me, man. He's like the ordained prophet, Tupac Shakur.
For
So
sure.
when I got married the second time, one of my buddies had this painting custom made for me and gave it to me as like his wedding gift, and so now
That's
it's in the
awesome.
office. It's a princely gift.
That's awesome, man. That's rad. Yeah, very cool, man. I appreciate that. And yeah, we very much grew up in that time. And I know some of the men, some of the dads on here know what we're talking about, man. Where did you grow up? Where are you from, Marissa?
So I was born in Utah. I live in Utah right now, but I
Okay.
grew up all over. My old man was in the service, so he
Okay.
did end up doing 30 years. I lived in Germany and Japan, all over the United
Okay.
States when I was a kid, and then came back here to go to college.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Okay, cool. Thank you. I appreciate that background. So I want to dive into the messages you're putting out there and all the things that you're creating right now. I think there's an interesting conversation to be had there. I'm an origin story. I'm not a superhero Marvel kind of guy, but I am an origin story guy because I love to figure out the why behind good men doing good things. There's a difference between good men, and I'm sure you know this, between good men saying things and good men who are doing things and actually leading by example. And I know you've seen that. So I'm always interested in that origin story, man. So you bounced around, went to college. Was it the traditional, hey, just as long as you get good grades, go to college and shit, man, life works out well for you? Like, is that the narrative in the household growing up? It was, in mine to some extent.
My dad wasn't really heavy-handed about that kind of stuff. So he was kind of hands-off when it came to like the kind of coaching side of parenting. He's a phenomenal dad. Like I can't say enough good things about him, but he wasn't much of a coach or a mentor in that way. So it just was assumed that I was going to go to school. All my uncles are like professors or lawyer. My dad's a lawyer. They're all like got college degrees. So it was just kind of baked into the fabric when I came in. So, some people are like the first to break out of the mold and go to college. I was like it was just kind of like standard practice for the family to do it. The
Yeah.
school that I went to, Weber State, my grandpa taught English at for 40 years. So I have an English major. I did it just to get classes from him. I just wanted to hang out with my grandpa. But my uncle teaches up there. Two of my uncles still teach up there at Weber State. My grandpa passed away. So yeah, I went to college kind of thinking I'm going to do the regular career route experience, and just like find myself in college, what I want to do with my life. And as college went on, it took me 7 years to get a 4-year degree. So I wasn't taking it too seriously. I was
With the
making
Van
pretty good
Van
money.
Wilder route.
Yeah, yeah, dude. I was like, hey man, I got one chance to be this age and I'm not
Yeah.
gonna spend it in a classroom as much as I can help it.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I thought I'd have something that I got passionate about in college and it never showed up. So I realized, in life, I learned this in college. I kind of had two options.
Mm,
I could either pick something I was passionate about or find my passion. So some guys that's being a high school football coach. Some guys is being an accountant. God bless them. I don't understand how anybody can be passionate about accounting, but there's people that are, man. Whatever works for you. I didn't have anything that I was passionate about. I mean, other than just like hanging out with my homies and working and
mm,
making money. And so I realized that was kind of the alternative. If I didn't have something I was passionate about, then I needed to figure out something that I could get financial freedom through. And
mm.
then I would have the freedom to do the things that I was passionate about. And that didn't look like a traditional career. I started realizing I'm like, dude, this isn't going to get you financial freedom, at least not for a long, long time. And so when I got out of college with an English degree, I ended up going into business, starting businesses with door-to-door sales. That's all I knew how to do. I'd been doing door-to-door sales in the summertime during college to pay for school. And door-to-door sales is crazy in Utah. We send these guys. That's how I built all my businesses. That's my bread and butter to this day. Like I've built
Yeah.
a number of businesses. I have a whole bunch. We have a huge company right now, a huge, relatively speaking, I guess, but we've got a company right now that's built primarily off of door-to-door sales marketing. When I came out of college, that was kind of the only thing I knew really how to do besides write and read was to knock on doors and sell. But I would in the summertime, I mean, I'd make, $150,000 in 3.5 months knocking doors. And guys are making way more money than that. That was 20 something years ago.
Yeah.
Guys are making way more money than that. And that was part of the problem. I'm like, man, I'm making $150,000 plus in 3.5 months. And then I'm just going to India or Israel or Egypt
Yeah.
or wherever, I'm just walking the earth. And I was like, I don't want a job, man. I do not want a job. And so
Yeah.
I just built the businesses with the skill set that I had.
But dude, I freaking love so much about this. So tell me, what are you selling? What are you doing door to door at this age? And where did you get So I get you make 150 grand over a few months, especially as a young buck, and you go, look, I don't want this job. But the concept of financial freedom was something that, as I feel like as we grew up, it was something that was becoming more and more prevalent for our folks. That wasn't necessarily the narrative, right? It was get a good job, right? And you put your head down for 30 years and you get your pension, and it was all that kind of stuff. But it started to come around a little more. Who were some of those early guys that you paid attention to? And then as you got into that door to door, what were you selling? What did you start with?
So in college, I sold a bunch of different things, but I finished up with pest control. So knocking
Okay.
doors,
Yep.
residential,
Yep.
selling housewives stuff that's going to take care of their spiders and ants. And so I did mostly that.
Yep.
When I graduated, me and my buddy, who had actually been one of the owners of one of the companies I'd worked for, we linked up and we started a garbage company in Philadelphia called Evergreen Waste Solutions.
Okay.
And I sold everything that I had. I had a few houses that I'd acquired over that time, and we put everything that we had into this
Yep.
business in Philadelphia. I'd never been to Philadelphia before. If you haven't been to Philadelphia, it's a rough place. Like my first week, I saw a dude 10 feet away from me get shot in the chest, and I had to go to court to testify. I was like, welcome to Philadelphia.
Right. Absolutely.
It was this crazy culture clash because here I am, this kid from Utah, and my buddy's from Utah, and it's all these old Italian mafia guys that are running the garbage business. The guys that have survived, they haven't been thrown in the landfills or sleeping with the fishes or in prison. It's like
Oh
this is the
man.
nephews and the cousins and stuff, and guys named Louie and Sal. And we were talking to these guys. They all got silk shirts and chains in their nest of chest hair, and they got pinky rings on. Hey, your guy came by talking business. Let's talk business. They're like, we're like, yeah, let's. There's a crazy world. And then Philadelphia people are really rough. If you don't know, you get out there and if you don't know their character, they're going to come across like they're assholes. Like all of
Yeah.
them just come across, but they're not. They're just really blunt and really authentic, and they don't do well with schmoozing. And so we started trying to get our guys to sell there. We invested everything into this company. We're bringing our door-to-door sales guys that we have to Philadelphia to knock doors there. None of them had been in Philadelphia. And the first couple of weeks, they're getting totally destroyed. And we think that this isn't going to work, dude. That we're going under. We're not making the sales. We've got a lot of money invested in this. We've got bills to pay. And if we don't start making sales, this isn't going to work. And my business partner and I, we had so much on our plate, but we stopped in the middle of a day and we're like, maybe this area is just too tough to knock. Let's figure it out. We actually hadn't knocked any doors in Philadelphia yet. So we get out and within an hour we'd sold a lot, each of us. Like we just were killing. We're like, no, it's not the area. It's our guys just don't know how to talk to people in Philadelphia. And so we came back the next correlation where guys, don't be nice to them. If you're being nice to these people, they're going to chew you up and spit you out. You got to mirror them. It's kind of one of these it's a selling strategies to mirror your customer. So whatever energy they bring to the door, you have to come back with that energy. So if a guy's like, hey, what are you doing at my door? You're like, I'm the garbage guy. You got to come like that. If it's a little,
Yeah.
what are you doing here? You're like, hey, I'm the garbage guy. Well, it's Philly people. So they're like, hey, what are you doing? Get out of here. And you're like, hey, I'm the garbage guy. I'm selling garbage. What are you doing? And they're like, oh, hey, well, let's talk. What's going on? What kind of deal you got? And
Yeah.
they just immediately, their walls come down when you can connect with them. And so we taught our guys that. And within, a couple of days, they were just crushing it. And we had a really good finish to our summer. And then kind of the rest is history. We sold that company 18 months later for $3.5 million. We weren't even trying to sell. We were such a threat to their businesses, taking business from them that they kind of made us an offer we couldn't refuse. We've been in business for 18 months. We're like, dude, we're walking away with $3.5 million. Let's do it.
Deal. Dude, I freaking love that. The jumping around with your childhood, with your old man and going to the different countries and all. Do you think you developed some of that ability to connect with various people because of that? Do you think there is a DNA aspect to that? right? The ability to connect with any type of human and to understand that, right? Where did that come from? Was it the experience of moving, DNA, somebody taught you that, a little bit of all of it? Where do you think that comes from for you?
That's a great question. So, yeah, for sure, moving around because either you're moving or your friends are moving all the
Yeah.
time.
Yep.
So you have to constantly make new friends in the military schools, because it's
Yeah.
just a new influx of kids, or you're moving and you're the influx. So I developed a lot of ability, I guess, to make friends. I wasn't really cognitive, that's what I was doing, but I guess it's
Yeah.
probably what was happening. You just kind of have to have any friends. But I'll tell you the real thing that switched for me, I've been a relatively outgoing person most of my life. But when I did my first summer, I was knocking doors in Detroit. I'd never been to Detroit either. So I go up there. I'm a young kid. I'm like, this company's told me that if I can sell 100 accounts in a day, I'll make 40 grand in the summertime, which was just some insane number. I was like, 40 grand, and that's like selling one a day. I got about 100 working days. I have no context, but I'm like, man, I should be able to get one a day. If I'm putting in the work, I should get one sell a day. That's going to equal 40 grand. And I got out my first day, I sold zero. My second day, I sold zero. My third day, I'd sold zero. And I'd never worked so hard at anything in my entire life. I mean, I
Yeah.
was putting in 10, 12 hours a day on the doors, running door to door, and not even getting people close. So the skills that I developed, whatever they were, at least in that early stage, weren't doing much. Like I wasn't getting anywhere, and it didn't translate into actually selling. What did translate, though, and this is kind of the moral of the story, is that my fourth day, I was reading a book by Collins and LaPierre about Gandhi at the time, and he had fasted something like 30 days to get the Muslims and the Hindus to stop killing each other. And I
Yeah.
was like, man, if Gandhi can fast 30 days, I can express a modicum of faith and I'll fast until I make a sell. So, like my fourth day, I was like, I'm going to fast. And so I went the whole day, didn't make a single sell, hadn't had anything to eat. Next day, it's, 24 hours, more than 24 hours later, 30 something hours later. I go back out, I start the next day, no food or water. And I'm about, most of the way through that day, I'm probably 40 something hours into the fast at this point, and I don't have a cell. It's like 6 o'clock in the evening. We go to like 9 or 10, and at night. And the car that picked us up for lunch had already left. I'm just in this neighborhood knocking doors, and I'm like a zombie. I can't even collect my thoughts. I can't even like put together cohesive, sales pitch because I don't have any calories. I'm like I'm shaky. I'm like my brain's not working. And there was this Little Caesars. I'm in the hood, and there's this Little Caesars down on the corner, and I'm like, man, I've been eyeballing it for the last 2 days of fasting. And so I do this whole walk of shame where I'm like, I got to eat something or I'm not going to be able to even keep going, right? Like, and so it's this whole epic failure. Like I didn't fast until I made a sale. I'm having this faith crisis. I'm having an identity crisis. I always had confidence. I have no confidence, none. I have no self-esteem. I've invested what little money I had to get out to Detroit. I have nothing, and I got to make money for school. And I'm ordering this hot and ready, and it's like bulletproof glass, and I'm sliding my car. They're sliding out a hot and ready in a warm 2 liter of Sprite because the fridge was broken. And I'm sitting in the parking lot. They didn't have anywhere to sit inside, so I'm sitting in the parking lot, and there's like used shell casings, used contraceptives, broken glass, needles, and I'm eating this pizza. Little Caesars got me through college, but when you haven't eaten anything in 40 something years or 40 something hours, you're like, this is the worst food you can be eating. Now I'm getting sick. I'm eating this and
Yeah.
drinking the Sprite, and I'm just feeling absolutely sick. And I recognized that I was at rock bottom. Like this was the worst my
Yeah.
life had ever
Yeah.
ever been. Like everything I thought about myself was gone. And here I am stuck in Detroit in the middle of nowhere, eating this pizza, just like totally a total failure. And I don't know exactly what happened in that parking lot. But it's something, it's very sacred to me now looking back on it. it
Yep.
was it was something like a temple to me now, almost like it's just that place where I had two decisions. I could either quit and go home, and I had a lot of good reasons to quit and go home, cut my losses, get back, get a job, try and figure out how to pay for the bills that are coming with school and everything, or I just didn't quit. And to me, I made this decision there. I said, well, you know what, and I don't know how I got to it because I thought I was going to quit. Walk into that parking lot, I was like, this isn't working. But I
Mhm.
made a decision with myself and with God there in that parking lot that I wasn't going to be a quitter. And even if I didn't sell anything for the rest of the summer, I was going to come back having developed my character. I was going to develop a quality about me that I believed was really important. And that's that when I make a commitment, I don't quit. And I went out, I had a couple hours left on the doors, and I went out that night and I sold two. And then the next day I sold two, and then the next day I sold two, and the next day I sold three, and the next day I sold three. And within 2 weeks, I was the number one sales guy out of like 300 sales guys in the entire company. And people were calling me, had no idea who I was. Like, what are you doing, man? What's the secret? And I'm like, bro, I don't know. I just didn't quit. I don't know I didn't get some epiphany. I didn't suddenly turn into a better salesman or anything. But there was a psychological effect there where
Bingo.
when your back is against the wall and you have no other options, then it's a strong foundation. Like right, rock bottom is a strong foundation to build on. And I was at rock bottom. And
Mhm.
so it was really that mindset of just saying, I am not going to quit that
Mhm.
made the catalyst of change. And that became such a pivotal crossroads in my life because if I had quit that, I would have gone on a completely different trajectory for my life, completely differently,
Yep.
and not for the better. I'm certain of that. But because I made that decision, hey, I'm not going to quit no matter what. It put me on a totally different path, a upward momentum, and that resolve to not quit has been tested many times in business since
Mhm.
then. But because I made that decision then not to quit, I could make that decision even when it got even harder not to quit. And when life got really stressed out, I trusted myself. I was like, that's what I gained out of that summer. It was more than I ended up servicing 109 accounts, so beat my goal. But the value of that summer was not in the money, and it wasn't in the number of sales that I got. The value was that I learned something about myself, that I wasn't a quitter, and that has made all the difference.
I freaking love it. Um, 1999, there's a movie that comes out. I read the book first and go watch the movie. Movie's called Fight Club. And there
Oh man,
and there's a
one of the
there's
best.
one of the best, man. And he says, when it was only when you've lost everything, you're free to do anything. And I'm in college at that point, and I'm paying my way through that. I left home at 17, and period of time where I'm working three jobs and I'm living in a Toyota Corolla, and it's the same sort of a 1982 Toyota Corolla, a yellow one with sheepskin seats. And
Let's go.
right. So, but it's those things right there where I just go, cool, man. I will pull myself out of this. This is what rock bottom feel. I'd rather have rock bottom right now at 20 years old than find it at 40 and 50. I'd rather do it now. Let's figure this out. And it's what you said. It's not all of a sudden, Little Caesars made you a great salesman. All of a
Yeah.
sudden, you made a magic freaking pizza, right? It was that psychological shift right there to bring back what was already somewhat available, right? And you talked at the very beginning, you said, I was waiting, my passion never showed up. And that's so true, man. I think that is such a place that so many young men and men are sitting there waiting for the passion to show up versus I'm going to go forge it. I'm going to go bring my passion to something right now that maybe can go towards financial freedom. I'm just going to go forge it right now. I'll bring my passion to it versus waiting for it to show up for me. Because I tell you what, if you wait, chances are it's not going to show up at your freaking doorstep. That psychological shift, man. I love every single bit of that. Um,
And I want to say something what you
please.
just said. Sorry, just to jam on
Oh,
that. Like
please.
my passion, I found my passion that summer, and
Yeah.
it wasn't door-to-door sales.
Yeah.
I do that as a career. My passion was self-development. And what I realized in that summer, and I have forgotten, on one, at least in my occasion when I got married in my first marriage, was that my purpose as a man, my primary purpose, and I believe this is the same purpose for every man, that my purpose was to make me the best version of myself. Like
Boom.
that's the purpose of every man.
Yep.
And when you do that, when you focus and you recognize that this is your product, nothing else you do, the external things that show up, as men, we're wired to look for external things to get self-respect, to get
Mhm.
respect from others, the house, the wife, the boat, whatever that looks like. Like that's not it. Those are just at best little mile markers on the real journey and the real point, which is that you develop yourself in the most powerful, vibrant, authentic, best version of yourself. And when
Mhm.
that becomes your purpose, then you have control over that because it's about inputs and you start focusing on the things that you're doing. So it wasn't really about making money that summer. It was about me committing myself to this process that was going to stretch me, that it was going to push me, it was going to break me at times, but it was going to be something that was going to make me better. And
Yeah.
that is the purpose that I think every man has. And we lose that with a lot of the modern day programming nowadays, where men are basically told to do what they're told, usually by women, check off the boxes of responsibility, go get some job, be a cog in the machine, and work until you die, or work until you
Mhm.
retire and your dreams are crushed and you can play golf and watch Matlock and then die. Like that's kind of the footprint for most people. And it's such that's why so many men live in quiet desperation nowadays, is because they're just going through the expectations that other people put on them, and they never find themselves. They never find their passion, which that passion should be me. Like the most important relationship I'll ever have with anybody in this world is with myself. everything else comes secondary to that, because when I'm healthy with myself, when I'm level myself up, everything else comes. Everything else will show up. Everything else makes sense. But if I'm not healthy with myself, if I don't know who I am, if I don't know where I'm going, if I don't know why I'm here on God's green earth, then nothing else makes sense. You're never going to be a good husband. You're never going to be a good father. You're never going to be a good partner until you are first a good man. God made you to be a man first.
That's right. Spot on, man. These are the core tenets of everything that we do here for the young men, for the men. This is the core tenets of every single thing we do. One of the things we talk about, Socrates says the beginning of wisdom is the definition of terms. It's one of my favorite
Mm.
quotes, and it's something we lean heavily into here. So, we talk about the narrative of we need to be the best version of ourselves. Yes, I agree with you. It is a freaking moral obligation. It is our moral obligation to be the best version. And guys will go, okay, well, what does that mean? So what is the book that I read to be the best version of me? So we have to start getting into definitions, right? So how do you define the best version? So how do you define the best version of Adam? So like when it comes down to Adam as the husband, that's a role, and Adam as a father is a role. Adam as the entrepreneur is a role. Adam as the guy who is leading via social, via his business, all of those are roles, and they're all slightly different than other roles. You and I could become good buddies, best of friends, and we're gonna have I'm gonna see a very real Adam, a very authentic Adam, but the relationship's not gonna be the same as yours is with your wife, nor should it be. It's not going to be the same as mine is with my wife. There's going to be a different thing, right? So how do you continuously work on defining what that best version is of you in all these different fields of play that you show up in? How do you do that for yourself?
So I think there's fundamentally, before I get into kind of more of the nuts and bolts on that, I
Yeah.
think first fundamentally it's a matter of self-awareness, and it's a matter of authenticity, right? Like, so first, like, understanding who you are, and that's not something you do in an afternoon. I mean, it's time. You get
Right.
to know yourself, and you get to know what is your passion and what makes you vibrant, and what you can build on. But then when you go into life, you have all of these different roles that you play. And as men, we have to play a lot of different roles. One of my favorite quotes by James Allen from As a Man Thinketh is, weakness cannot exist in a power evolving universe. And so there's no place for weakness here. There's no place to be complacent. Complacency is death. We live in a world of entropy where the forces of this world, the playing field, are working against us. That's intentional. So it doesn't do you any good to sit around and wish that away, or feel sorry for yourself and feel like you didn't get the right cards dealt, or the right put in the right spot, or the right promotion, or whatever that looks like. The world's against you. It is. That's the playing field we're all in. The world is against us. And
Right.
and that's valuable. That's not like some sadistic thing from the Almighty. It's because resistance creates strength. It's just like going to the gym. You can't get stronger unless you're lifting weights. You can't get emotionally stronger unless you're going through trials. You can't improve on anything unless there's resistance. So this resistance is actually a blessing. And so orienting yourself towards that, and recognizing, fundamentally, this is where it starts to know your best version, is that life isn't happening to you, it's happening for you, right? This is a quote that everybody knows. I don't even know who originally penned it, but it's
Mhm.
ingrained on my heart. Like, life is not happening to me, it's happening for me. So whatever happens is a blessing. It's like what Jocko Willink says, it's like, good. Yeah, we don't have plate armor. Good. That means we're going to level up in a different way. Okay. We don't have the trucks to come evac us. Good. That means we're going to have to huff it out on foot. We're going to get better. Like, that's the mentality that starts with being the most powerful version of yourself, is like
Mhm.
really stepping into that place where you welcome the adversity, and you're not only okay with it, you're grateful for it. And there's a
Mhm.
huge shift in a man's mind when you start to find gratitude in the process. And you're like, this is so good because I'm in the refiner's fire right now, and it's making me a bigger, tougher, faster, better version of myself. And then to your point about these different hats, and this is something I try to train guys on all the time. For me, there's 7 different aspects of masculinity, and you hit on some of those, right? So the one is the lover masculine, article of masculinity. The other one is the patriarch. It's being a father. And then there's the philosopher, and there's the warrior, and there's the patriarch, and there's the brother, and there's the baron, the guy that's you're going out making money and learn how to provide. And it's most of us men, we operate on one of those articles, but we apply it on all of them, right? Like, so we have one of them that we're good at. So if it's the warrior, like, I just crash through walls. I leave it all on the table.
Right.
No
Yeah.
quarter,
But but you're right. But then I'm going to go dominate this marriage. It's like, well, that didn't,
Exactly. It doesn't work. Or
that doesn't
you're going
work
to
too.
dominate your friend group and you show up. We're like, let's say you're really good at being a father. Some guys are great at being a father. That's the coach. Essentially, that's what the patriarch is how
Yeah.
to coach. It's not just being a father. You're a patriarch in a position of leadership in a company or whatever that, if you're coaching somebody on anything, you are that patriarch because that's what it means to be a patriarch. But your wife doesn't want to be coached and neither do your buddies. So how sometimes you get these buddies that kind of know it all and they're constantly telling you how you should live your life better. You're like, bro, I just want you to be a friend. I don't need a coach
Yeah.
right now. I just need a homie,
Totally.
man, that I can hang out with. And so it's really learning that there's these 7 articles that you have to constantly be developing and improving because if you're not, entropy is going to take it away. And so if
Mhm.
it's not a focus for you and if you're not prioritizing these things, and it's hard because it's a lot, um, then eventually it's going to fall apart. So if you're not prioritizing your marriage, it's going to fall apart. Then if you're not prioritizing your business, it's going to fall apart. If you're not prioritizing your health, it's going to fall apart. So it's knowing when to put on these different hats. When I go to the gym, I have these little totems that I use now. When I go to the gym, my shaker bottle's my totem. So I'm shaking my little pre-workout up and it's
Yeah.
warrior hat on. Everything's left on the table. There's no mercy. There's no prisoners. I'm coming back with nothing in the gas tank. I'm going to war. That's the warrior mindset. I come home to my wife before I walk in the front door. I look at a picture of her and I have a different hat, symbolically put on my head. And now I look at a picture and I think of something that I'm grateful about her. And now I come in with some energy where I'm like, hey, baby, how was your day? Instead of coming home being stressed and redlined and not really considering the fact that I'm stepping into a completely different energy now that requires a different version of me to show up. Now I'm kind of, at least it gives me a little click, a little moment to like recognize, hey, it's the different masculinity hat that I have to wear now when I step into that home with my wife or whatever that looks like, any aspect of your life.
That's it, man. We work with SC. I mean, guys, this if this doesn't sound familiar, you're not paying attention. I mean, this is we work with Todd Herman and the alter ego effect, and we've had Todd come in and talk to us. It's that the totems. It's defining how you're going to show up in those areas, and then being able to switch and being able to go into okay, now I'm home. The Warriors got to go because I got to be that. I've got to be that husband now, and being is super intentional about that. We're talking about being sorry for yourself, and I love these guys know my favorite poem. D.H. Lawrence self-pity. So never saw a wild thing sorry for itself. A bird will fall frozen dead from a bough without ever having felt sorry for itself. And I so very much believe that it speaks directly to what you're saying. There's a difference between getting out. So you get out of that victimhood mentality, then you go into, well, this is happening to me, and that's okay. There's a level of acceptance, but when you switch to this is happening for me, hell yes, you unlock a whole different animal.
You're endowed with power. The minute
That's
you make
right.
that paradigm shift, you
Right.
are a far more powerful person
That's
than you
right.
were the moment before. It
So,
is such a
yeah, man.
change is just a paradigm away for most of us, right? Like
It's
development is a process, but change is just a paradigm shift. And when you can shift that paradigm, then and really what you're trying to do is you're trying to orient yourself towards life and this game that we're in, this simulation that we're in a way that makes sense, in a way
yeah,
that's actually going to improve you. And I think, the definition of masculinity for me is a man who it's essentially a man who can impose his will on the world around him in these
mm,
different aspects, right? So it's like knowing how to yeah, it's knowing how to make changes and adjustments to whatever aspect of your life in real time. You are imposing your will. When I talk about that with my relationship with my wife, that doesn't mean I'm being tyrannical. It doesn't mean I'm coming
yeah,
home and being the boss. It means I know what her buttons are. Like I know what her levers are. I know what she likes. I know what she doesn't like. I know what works. I know what doesn't work because I know her. And so, in a very real sense, I'm managing the relationship, not as a parent. I'm a partner with her, but I also understand that I can't be complacent. I can't get out of touch with who she is. I got to know who she is. And I got to come home and I got to be able to impose my will on that relationship for her betterment, for the betterment of my children, for the betterment of my house. It's not for me to be selfish. And I think that's the difference between toxic masculinity and healthy masculinity is
that's
toxic
right.
masculinity. They can impose their will on the world. They're still masculine men, but they're doing it for selfish reasons. And
Right.
healthy masculinity, or what I call the comprehensive man, is a man that's going into the world, into these different areas of his life. He's imposing his will to make the world a better place for those on his watch.
That's right. To lead and to serve. God bless it, man. So dang good. All right, gentlemen, I want to bring you guys in here is really quickly. I want to dovetail just a little bit off of what Mr. Allred just said. You guys go ahead and start putting your hands up at any point, and I'll start bringing you guys in here in just a second. So you're talking about that service and that leadership aspect. Again, could not agree more. We talk about pursuing sovereignty and freedom. I talked to a guy this morning who's coming into the next class for Apogee Man. He goes, but what do you like this whole sovereignty thing? What do you mean? And I was, look, in the most simple terms, I do what I want to do with the people I want to do it with and for the people I want to do it for. And I want every area of my life. I don't want anybody else to be able to tell me I can't do that. So from a financial standpoint, from a spiritual standpoint, my relationship here from, we've got a farm, we've got a homestead that everything could go, and we've got all the food, we've got it here. I can go completely off grid if we need to go off grid. We've got the finances set up. We've got our relationships, like this is what we're talking about with that sovereignty. But then I use that so we can go serve other people and show other people to get the same way. That part, the service part, the leadership part, getting outside of the house. What is it for you that made you want to step in and do this? Because there's a difference between getting there and serving within the household, and then also going, you know what? I've got to get other guys to come on board with this too. I've got to help others. And I always I love that. I admire that. And man, what is it for you that made you go, all right, man, I want to get outside and help other men get here too? Was there a moment? Was it just getting sick of what you were seeing? Was it relationships that already existed? Like what was that trigger for you to help other guys?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think it really started, with my first marriage. Like I went through this marriage and I had been conditioned by church, by family, by culture that essentially my role as a man was to be a doormat for my wife, and that it was happy wife, happy life, and that if I was just the nice guy, that everything would work out because this is the conditioning: be nice, be tolerant, be patient, understand. Nobody talks to you about holding boundaries with your spouse. Nobody talks about having self-respect in a relationship with a spouse. Nobody talked to me about that. And so that marriage got bad really quick because I was willing to tolerate so much nonsense in that relationship. And I did so because I thought that was the moral obligation, that I was supposed to do that. And then, this is the whole nice guy syndrome where you're like, why isn't life working for me? And you feel sorry for yourself. God, I'm doing everything right. You're not doing everything right. You're doing everything wrong. You think you're doing everything right. And so this is going back to the idea of being self-aware and like, opening your mind up to other possibilities and not just going through the programming. So when I went through that divorce, that was the hardest stretch I'd ever been through. And I realized that so much of that conditioning and programming that I inherited was bad. It was
Yeah.
bad. And it wasn't just me. It's like every other dude out there. And I had literally like within a couple of months of people find out that I was going through a divorce. I, I had guys just reaching out to me, dudes I knew well, dudes I didn't
Yeah.
know that well. Adam, what's it like? I mean, this is what my marriage looks like. And it's just terrible. Like, and these are good dudes.
Yeah.
These are guys that are showing up, they're working, they're the night, but they're nice guys. They've been
Yeah.
conditioned to be nice guys. And so I realized there's just like so much bad programming out there and framework. And then I work with sales guys all the time. I've hired thousands of them and trained them and managed them over the years. And seeing these young guys come up and they want to be men, they have no idea what it means to be a man. They have no idea. They've never had anybody, unless they've been in sports, never had anybody coach them, a lot of them. If a dad was around, he didn't spend a lot of time with them. And the mom was doing most of the raising. And they come into this adulthood and they're lost. And I think that's
Mm.
what we're really up against right now in this generation is these lost boys. And so I'd share this stuff to them and you could tell it resonated, but they didn't have what it took to make the change because
Mm.
it wasn't enough to overturn all the programming. And so they would hear it, it would resonate, and they're like, "Oh, that sounds so right." And then they go back into the real world and they leave it behind. And so I started like just sharing some of these thoughts I'd felt for years, like this pressure to speak on social media because that's the town square nowadays. So to start sharing some of this stuff that might help guys be better. And I didn't want to do it. I still don't want to do it. Like, to be honest with you, like I have so many other things on my plate and this is just more layers of work and time. But I constantly had this voice that I'd keep shutting up for years, just like, dude, you got to speak, you got to speak, you got to speak up. And I finally started doing it, and it's come with a whole host of other. You get a lot of negativity when you start talking like this from people, and it's a lot of work and it's a lot of stress. But that voice is gone. It's gone, and it's so peaceful now. Like I know that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing because I'm not hearing that voice chirp in my head. And it was like my fifth video. I mean, I didn't have any followers. I'd never posted quote unquote content. It was just the typical pictures of your family and stuff. And I'd never even had an Instagram account until about 2 years ago when I started doing this. And it just resonated. It was really encouraging to me because not only was it like so many guys were like, yes, yes, you're speaking my language. This is where I'm at. This is authentic. But then you're running into guys like yourself, Matt, and others that are like on this same journey. And you're like, there's a lot of guys that are waking up to this. And I think my fifth video went to like 2 million views or something like that. Like it was just insane to me. I was completely blown away and surprised. I'm just editing it myself. My buddy sets up a camera. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. We're gonna throw this out there into the ether and see what happens. But it's been cool to see this. And I think that pendulum where society has conditioned men to be weak and to step out of the responsibility roles, and they're not needed anymore. And masculinity, all masculinity is toxic, and feminism is the answer. All of that is just a bunch of bullshit. But that's how we're conditioned. And I think that pendulum is starting to swing back. And it gives me so much hope for our country, for our world, because I believe the greatest threat right now to society is weak masculinity. And we have to
Right.
own that. We can't blame it on women. We can't blame it on our problems. We can't, it's men. This is a man issue. That's why we have to gather in tribes. That's why we have to talk to each other like this and share our stories with each other and our burdens and our wisdom and our experiences. This is how we level up, and we come back in tribes like we've done for thousands of years. This is how men evolved. This is how men leveled up. This is how they were held accountable. This is where they raised the next generation, was in these tribes of men that would take the boy out of the home of the mother and say, you're a man now. You're never going back to that house. You're with us. We're going hunting. And if you don't learn this stuff, you're dead. We're going
Right.
to war. If you don't know how to fight, you're dead. There are real
Right.
instant consequences. And in our complex world, those consequences are delayed. And so many people are just, they can go through really bad programming for a long time because those consequences aren't immediate. They're just elongated over the course of your life.
Right. They get protected from it, man. No, that's so good. It's, we get that from obviously what we're doing on the building stronger family side, and what we're doing on the education side, and some of the guys that are here with us too are launching campuses, and we're bringing back these campuses that are focusing on strong healthy families, creating a small tribe and working together to raise the next generation, and transferring that strong traditional way of life to that next generation with the skills that they need. People are like, I don't know if I can get on board with this new alternative way to school. I'm like, no, no, this is the way it's always been. This is the way it's always been. We're just going back to that. We're just highlighting that journey again because it's designed to be that way for a reason, man. It's
Bingo.
exactly. Oh, frick, I love it, man. Let's get some of these guys in here. Baz, and get you in here, sir.
First, I want to say thank you for being on the call, sir. I really appreciate you not sacrificing, using your time to come on with us. My question is, so when you were a door-to-door salesman, what was the hardest person you had to deal with? Because there's kind of people who have different personalities or try to avoid interacting with the door-to-door salesman. And what would you say was the hardest experience you had with that?
Mm.
Uh, First of all, Baz, thanks for that, man. And thanks. That's a great question. Essentially in sales, door-to-door sales, what I learned over the years that I've done it is that it's not actually really about selling anything. You're trying to connect with people, because if you connect with them, then you're going to find out if they actually have a need for it or not. And if they don't, that's fine. You're not selling everybody, but you're trying to get past the wall. And so for most of the time, occasionally you run into like a golden customer that's like, hey, my kid just got bit by a brown recluse. We were just about to call somebody. And you're like, oh, and they're like, how did you know? And I didn't. I've been knocking 12 hours to find you. Like thank you, God. Like you find those, but most of them are coming to the door with the intent to get rid of you. Like then most people are going to try and be polite. Some aren't. They're having a bad day or whatever. But most people, their objective is to get you off their door. They're watching Oprah, or they're on a work call, or they got kids running around or whatever. And so you have this huge, I call it the big ass wall, the BAW, the big ass wall that is there on every single door. And you're trying to get that wall to come down so that you can have a human authentic conversation. And there's a lot of different techniques on how to do that. But the primary one is just to be authentic yourself. When people sense that I'm not trying to talk them into buying anything, because I never talk anybody into buying anything, nor do I ever pressure anybody into buying anything. That's not how I do it. My job is just to connect with them. So when I'm talking to them about, hey, you guys got, a license plate from Michigan. Where are you guys from? Oh, I lived in Detroit. And you have this connection with them. And all of a sudden the wall comes down a little bit. And then you're saying, hey, I'm talking to all the neighbors. Mary? Yeah, Mary, she's great. We just signed her up. The wall comes down a little bit. Now you're kind of, some similar people. So it's really like kind of every one of the doors, unless you get a golden one, is the really tough customer, the hardest person to deal with. They're all kind of like that. And your job as the sales guy, again, is not really to sell anything. It's just to have a human connection. And what's really interesting is I'll meet these people on the doors. I get a sale done in like 15 to 20 minutes from start to finish, usually. Typically, that's how paperwork signed out. The truck's on its way. It's going to come service them. 20 minutes from start to finish, it's done. And what's interesting is in that 20 minutes, you have these authentic connections with these people. It's eye-opening to see how rare that is for the average person to have a real authentic conversation because I'll be sitting down filling out paperwork and they are telling me the most private aspects of their lives, stuff they would never tell their spouse or their
Yeah.
friends. They tell me because I'm having an authentic conversation and because I don't have any history with them. And so they just pour out stuff or they're like, they want you to marry their daughter, or they want you to come over to their kid's graduation, or they want after 20-minute conversation. It's amazing how much that means to people to have an authentic connection, even if it's with somebody they've only known for a handful of minutes. It just completely changes their entire paradigm. And you go from somebody trying to get rid of you to now you're their best friend and they love you and you like have a relationship with them. It's really interesting.
That's really good. What do you think, Baz?
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. And I think it is very neat how fast a relationship could be set up just do a 5 to 20 minute conversation.
100%. And that connection point that he's talking about, Baz, it is it's the reality of the human condition, the ability to find what we connect around. We do a lot in culture to go, well, how are we different from this person, right? They're on the left, I'm on the right, or they're on, they like this team, I like this team, or that we look for all these ways to stay disconnected when the reality is we are connected in so many ways. There's common interests, there's common views, there's common people we know, there's common goals. And when you really look for those common connection points, you find out that most people are actually pretty easy to get to know and to get along with. And the more you do it, failure or otherwise, the more now you've got experiences and stories to tell that increase the likelihood that the next person you meet, you've got a quicker connection point with that person. And it just, right, and it steamrolls that way. So that connection piece is super, super valuable, Baz. It's a really good question.
By the way, Baz, I have that exact same map in my son's room. I love that thing, man. It takes up his whole wall.
So do I.
It's great, right?
Let's go.
So do I.
Yeah,
That's
exact
over
same
my
one.
son's bed.
Let's go. Something about it,
How
man.
cool is that? Baz, I've never even realized that, seeing this on the call. That's awesome, man. Yeah, good question, Baz.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Really well done. Yeah, I think it's so funny, man. We'll have to continue some conversations offline too. I think so many stories to share. But I mean, you're sitting here talking about these connection points, and I've had same sort of thing where it's been like, hey, are you single? Or for everything from that to I've had 3 different Uber drivers confess murder to me on an Uber drive.
Wow. That's
3,
wild.
dude. Now I've been in more Ubers than most people because of traveling and speaking, but that's still a lot to come, in Uber. So it's so interesting that the connection points can come back for stuff like that too. But more often than not, man, that is the key to relationships. So good, Mr. Clifford.
3?
3, bro.
That's
One in your neck of the woods.
are you like want to leave the car immediately? I mean,
It,
after hearing that, are you just like, okay, I got
2 out of the 3 were concerning. Yeah, 2 out of the
yeah.
3. I'm like, and I mean, one of them, man, and I was in Missouri. One of them was like, within 5 minutes, I had this, and we had a ride all the way back to the airport, and I'm like, this might be a little, but actually, surprisingly enough, the one that was in your neck of the woods,
Yeah.
I'd spoken at the Javits Center in New York, and that one wasn't as concerning. A lot of stories to tell, man.
I'm sure you're able to smooth it out where it
Yes,
wasn't,
sir.
but yes. Shout out to Baz. I get so impressed by these young men all the time when we get on
Yes,
these
sir.
calls and make these questions. So shout out to you, Baz, for that was a great question. Adam, we don't have much time with you guys, and so I love hearing your nuggets. Anyone who's not following Adam, follow him because he even though he hates it, he puts out really good stuff on social media that a lot connects with a lot of stuff we do at Apogee. So
Agreed.
I would encourage everyone to do that. There's a lot of things that you mentioned today, Adam, that I could touch on. One of them is the alter ego mentioned with the shaker and how you look at the wife's picture. I have one of those with my daughter where I coach my son and daughter in sports teams, and we have a totem where I have the whistle, like a whistle around my neck. I tell my daughter, I'm like, I'm not your dad anymore. I'm your coach. I have to treat you that way. And then sometimes when that whistle comes off, immediately after we get in the car ride home, I'm back to being her dad. And there are times where like I'll just forget putting the soccer balls back into the back of the Jeep, and then she's like, "Daddy, your whistle." I'm like, "Oh yeah, sorry." Like 'cause she wants that transition as well. Um, One of the things that I want to touch on and ask you is coming from a successful family, relatively speaking, with your father and your uncles being professors and educators, and then you being able to now have sold some multiple businesses for money, and now you're raising a family of four and a successful one, successful marriage too, that you can emulate to your children. How do you, how does one um, create that hunger and drive in your kids and a successful family,
Mm.
right? Because my goal always has been to do better than my father. And my father's was do better than my grandfather. And like they all came from humble beings. And now my father was the first one to actually do pretty well, upper middle class, nothing crazy. But my brother and I always said like it's gonna be really hard to beat dad, right? To beat that, have that happy marriage, successful in all areas, respected. And then now, as we are going on, we are on our way, on our path, and now I'm raising my children, and they are privileged in society of where we live. And so I'm always wondering, like I always try to create hardships for them, manufacture them sometimes. And I wonder, how do you hold that dynamic with your children, or if you do, if you haven't yet, what are your plans to do something like that?
Mm.
Wait, so let me understand your question. How do I essentially is how do I parent or find
How do you
passion
how do
or
you
what?
create hunger within your children's to
Oh,
want more? Because you can provide so much for them already, being a successful family. And how do you want them to strive for more than what they have and not be um, reliant and be okay and stagnant with the level of life that you're able to provide for them?
well, one thing I would say for me, and I don't want to make my kids into me, right? That's not my goal. Like I want them to be their authentic self, and I want them to kind of reveal that themselves through the process of my parenting and them going through life and having their own experiences. Like who are they and what makes them passionate? For example, my daughter, my oldest daughter, she is just phenomenally gifted at acting. She gets on these little stages. She's 13 and she's had some star roles already. And I didn't teach her any of that stuff, man. I don't know anything about acting, but it's just something that she's so passionate about and interesting. She loves acting in theater. I hate theater unless it's like Broadway Les Mis or something is or Hamilton, something at that level. It's just not something. Now I'm fascinated with it. I'm interested and I love her. Like, and I want her to do that. I don't need her to make a bunch of money. I don't need her to be just like me. I need her to find herself and what is best for her and for me to help her discover that. Now, of course, I'm going to do that within a framework of teaching principles that I think is profound. So, for example, one of those principles is I want my kids to take accountability. There's no getting off the hook. There's accountability. I don't care if it's my daughter's going through all the hormonal stuff right now where she's, going through puberty and there's a lot. You got daughters that are like, she just hit 13. So I'm entering in a different era of life and it's oftentimes chaotic, but I don't give her a pass for that. And I don't try to blast her or make her feel bad about it, but it's like you got to own yourself and what your circumstances are. So I want them to take accountability. I want them to do hard things. So I'm constantly trying to put them in places where they're working hard and doing hard things and leveling up. And I want them to face their fears. Like, so if there's something they're afraid of, we go do it that day. I will stop what we're doing like midstream, like we're on our way to go to the library or something like that. And somehow in a conversation, I find out my son is nervous and concerned about that. Well, we're going to go do that right now. Let's go take care of that right now. Let's get that monkey off your back. Let's go face our fears. And probably the last thing that I really want to teach, and I have two more last things. I want them to be kind. I don't want them to be nice. I want them to be nice to people. And then I want them above all to know that they're loved by their dad. So outside of that, whatever they decide to be, I'm okay with. Like I'm ready. I don't care if they're the same level of success or more successful than me. I'd love to see them more successful than me, but only if that's what they're passionate about. I want them to live the life that they're most proud of and the life that gives them the most fulfillment. And so I don't know if that answers your question, but that's
No,
that's
it
how I
does. It
approach
gives
it.
me that balance, and a lot of things. What you're talking about is what my wife and I try to do as well. Like my next book is called "Fear is a Choice," and it's about confronting
Yeah.
your fears. So it rings true with me. And one of the things we just did with my kids is that I wrote down all the people I mean, right now, reluctantly, they're still in public school, and so we wrote down all the teachers in their school, all the faculty in their school, and I'm making my son and daughter go up to them and introduce themselves, shake their hands, get to know who they are. And my daughter's like, I have to meet everybody. I'm like, yes. And it doesn't count unless you shake your hands, look them in the eye, introduce yourself,
I
and
love that.
come back and we'll work it out. So my son's already doing a kindergarten, and so it's a thing I want to make them feel uncomfortable and level up and be able to do something like that. So I appreciate it, Dad.
It's good, man.
Yeah,
And
no, that was a really good question. One thing too, I just wanted to add to that, Stephen, is that um, people will say, I hear this a lot. This isn't really exactly according with your question, but I think it's important. And people will say, I hear this sometimes, I'm just not a great dad, or I'm just not a great husband, or I'm not just, they'll say these things that give them kind of an excuse that they built up in their head, an identity that they built up in their head that now kind of alleviates them from having to do more. They can just kind of accept subpar because they're quote unquote not good at it. What I've realized is that everybody is good at what they're interested in. Everybody is. And so really talent is about interest. And when people say I'm not a good dad, what that tells me is they're not interested in being a dad. That's fundamentally what it means. And when you can own that, be self-aware, you can change that if you want to. Like you can actually change that. You can start getting interested in it. But that's what it looks like. So when people say, hey, I want to be a good dad, then be interested in your kids. You want to be a good dad, that's what it looks like. You're interested in what they're going through. You're interested in the sports they're doing. You're interested in theater, whatever it is they're interested in, I'm now interested in. It's not about trying to conform them to be me and to follow everything that I'm interested in. It's like, I want to discover the things that they like because they're going to be good at it. And that is one of the things that how I've oriented myself that's really helped me to be right there with my kids and meet them where they're at is just to be interested in everything they're doing.
Word. I need one of those hats too.
really good.
Oh yeah, we've got them on the link is in my bio.
Awesome. That's solid. And Steve, one last thing on that, man, too, is, the default setting of a human being is to want to challenge and do hard things. When they got out, they started walking. You didn't have to encourage them to do it. You didn't have to, like they just freaking went after it. They'd fall on their ass, they'd get up, they'd go out. Like that's the default setting too. What happens as we get older, we put too many other distractions in the way that also take a lot of the energy away from wanting to go tackle other things too. So there's that balance of not being distracted. If you added another 8-hour job to your day and it was 8 hours of just menial sitting there doing paperwork stuff that you hated, it would still drain you and make it way harder for you to go tackle something that you're really excited about because you wasted a lot of energy on things that you knew were wasting your time. Our kids are not that different from us too, right? They're still humans. They're not learning how to be humans. They're learning from us because they are humans and we're ahead of it's like, if they've got too many things that are sucking away the energy, that are distracting them, that kills some of the drive too, right there, right? So we've got to play that balance too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's really good, man. It's good stuff. Mr. Smith.
All right, sir. Appreciate you coming on here. Thank you for your time. I had a question. You were talking about, the standards and the preconceptions you had when you went into marriage. So thankfully, I have incredible parents. They've been really great for me, and so I want to learn now the right things to do from them and from other people that I should do when I get married. And so I have great examples to look to, but it's really easy to say, oh wow, I got these people I can watch, I'll just do what they do. And I know that by the time I actually get married, I'll be like, whoa, this is hard. This is, I wasn't expecting all this, right? So are there any things I should know about now, any mistakes I should look out for now that even with good role models could easily trip me up?
That's a great question, Mr. Smith. I appreciate that. Makes me think of the Matrix, by the way, Mr. Smith, Mr. Anderson.
And I think you and I, so there's Morpheus right there. I think
Morpheus, let's
I'm
go.
telling you, Adam, the more I talk to you, man, the more I'm like, we got a lot of stories to share.
We're like the same person, man.
There's a lot of similarities going on
here. A little bit better looking to have that silver beard that I wish I had, man.
I'll disagree, but I'm down.
My beard is pretty weak, man. I wish it was stronger. The only thing I'm envious of people when I see a good full beard, I'm like, geez, man.
Well, this is the byproduct of starting to shave when you're about 4'8" and 11 years old. You got a Geraldo mustache already. Yeah, then it turns into this. So
I've been jealous of you guys my whole life. I'll continue. So this could be like I could go on. This is such a good question, by the way. This is like one of those really right questions. You're coming into age, and I'll tell you the first thing is that you have to pick really carefully, and that's not easy to do because here's what happens with most guys: they're raised to find purpose in a woman. Most guys are being raised, not you, but a lot of kids are being raised, like mentioned earlier, without dads. And so they have a mom that is acting kind of as both parents in a lot of cases. So and the mom is teaching them to be a yes man to her, to say yes to her. They go into a school system that's dominated by females. It's yes to women. And then they go into adulthood and they're essentially looking for a mother to replace the mother of their youth. And this is a huge, huge problem. And so they miss a lot of red flags because they think the woman is going to give them purpose, and they waited their whole life. And we do all kinds of self-destruct things, like we get rid of our tribes. The second we meet the right girl, our buddies get dropped off. We don't hang out with them anymore. Or if we do, it's got to be scheduled once every 6 months or something like that. You get to go out with your boys. It's just self-destructive behavior. So the first thing is like recognizing a woman is not your purpose and never will be your primary purpose. She's a secondary purpose. And that doesn't mean you don't show her deference and love. My wife is my queen. I'd take a bullet for her. I work my ass off for her. I'd do anything for her, except I won't be weak and I won't sacrifice my purpose for her. And we've had those conversations before I got married the second time. So the first thing is knowing that your purpose is not a woman. And so then if you know that in your core, now you are freed. You at least you can start to see the red flags a lot more clearly. You can keep some of the emotion out of the decision making when you fall in love, because it's really, really easy to fall in love. It's really, really easy to get Twitter pated. It's really hard to manage a relationship unless you do it right from the get-go. And that starts with picking a woman that is healthy. And what I mean by that is like a woman that knows how to take accountability, a woman that is working on herself, a woman that recognizes like her strengths and weaknesses, like somebody that can say sorry. My wife, when we first started dating, she said sorry to me about 100 times in the first month for nothing, like trivia. I didn't even know why she was saying sorry. I wasn't offended, but she was so concerned about making sure that, she was taking accountability for herself. And I think that was the first time I'd ever heard a woman say sorry, to be honest with you. I was like, this is mind blowing to me, but it showed me just how healthy she was as a person. And so picking really, really a healthy person, because if you pick an unhealthy person and you're a healthy person and you guys get married, and especially if you have kids, you're going to become unhealthy in that relationship. They're not going to level up to you all of a sudden and become super healthy. It's very rare that happens. Instead, you're going to be a very unhealthy person as well in that relationship. So you have to find somebody that's healthy, and they're harder to find these days. I'll be honest with you, with how much of the nonsense that we've allowed to come into society and all this BS programming, it's hard to find people of that kind of caliber. But if you find a woman that's authentic, you find a woman that's self-aware, a woman that's accountable, dude, she can look like Jabba the Hutt. You found a queen, bro. Like that's like that's a good woman. So first that, and then the second thing is when you go into the relationship, you need to have really clear expectations and you have to have boundaries, because a woman is only attracted to a man that she respects. She's only attracted to a man she respects. She's not going to be attracted to a nice guy. She's not going to be attracted to a guy that serves her all the time. You can't serve a woman enough. You can't be nice enough to a woman to get her to love you back. The only way she's going to love you back is if she respects you. And she's only going to respect a man who has boundaries. A man who says, hey, I will not tolerate this type of stuff. I have too much self-respect. I know myself too well. I'm not going to allow this person that I have complete control over to be disrespected by anybody. I'm just not going to allow it. And if someone feels comfortable disrespecting me, I'm going to leave. And let me give you one quick story on this. I listened to this podcast. It was really profound. I listened to this podcast a few years ago, and this guy was talking about, they were in this couples group. And one of the couples, friendship group, one of the couples was going through a divorce. And everybody in the group knew that the wife was really disrespectful to her husband. She treated him poorly. She walked all over him. She was just really toxic. And they go through the divorce, and the woman stayed in the friend group. And so she was still kind of in orbit with them. And she ends up getting back into another relationship, and she ends up getting married again. And the whole group is like, oh man, I don't know what's going to happen. We kind of know what's going to happen. She's going to start doing the same thing to this guy she did to this other guy. Well, they go on their honeymoon, her and her new husband, they go on their honeymoon and they come back. And within a short period of time, she's starting to treat him like she treated her first husband, with disrespect, with criticism, nagging, interrogation, whatever form that comes in of being disrespectful. She was starting to do that. And as soon as she started to do that, he just separated himself. He just went upstairs. And she's huffing and puffing and, pacing back and forth downstairs. And finally she goes up to see what he's doing, and he's packing. He's packing his bags. She's like, what are you doing? They've been married for like 2 weeks. She's like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm sorry. I made a huge mistake. I'm not going to stay in this relationship because you feel like it's okay to treat me with disrespect. So I'm leaving, and I'm sorry. This is on me. I should have figured this out sooner, but this isn't going to work out. And she's begging him, oh, don't leave. I mean, this is going to be your second divorce, whatever else. Like, she's begging him to stay. And I guess she was sincere enough in this that he decided to give her a second chance. And this guy's telling the story. It's 23 years later, and they're happily married. Like everything changed as soon as he had a boundary, and that boundary looked like his willingness to leave. Ultimately, that's what accountability looks like. When I was in my first marriage, we went to a marriage counselor about 4 years into it, and the first thing that she said to me, she separated us after the first session because we couldn't even get along. Like we were bickering in that. We go into these separate sessions the next week, and I'm thinking it's a woman, and my wife. I think I'm going to get just blasted by her, right? I'm like, this lady's going to just tell me all the things I'm terrible at, and I'm okay. I'll take it on the chin. I'm trying to make this marriage work, whatever it takes. The first thing she said to me was like, if you're not prepared to leave, I can't help her. I can't bring her to the table. I can't help unless there's some real consequences to her behavior. Even I can't get her to that. There has to be accountability in this relationship. And right now, you won't hold that line with her. And so I can't get her there. And I wasn't willing to do it. I wasn't. I had kids and all this programming was in my head. And I was like, I get what you're saying, but I can't leave my kids. I can't do any of this stuff. But she was prophetic. 4.5 years later, we're going through a divorce, and everything she said was true. There was no accountability ultimately because I was willing to tolerate, by my unwillingness to leave, anything that she threw my way. This is hard to hear. This isn't easy because we have these Twitter-pated ideas in our head about falling in love, happily ever after, and we see good parents. My parents are amazing together. They have always had a healthy relationship. You think if you just work at something hard enough, long enough, it'll start to get better. But you cannot make a relationship work with somebody who doesn't want to make it work, no matter how hard you try. And so you have to own that. If you're with somebody who's not willing to come to the table with you, you pick that up really quick. And it's like business. You hire slowly and you fire quick. And that I'm not a man to get rid of your responsibilities. I'm a man that you show up and you take care of your responsibilities and the best version of yourself. But if you know you're showing up to that relationship and you are bringing it and you're coming to the table and you're doing everything you know how to do to make that work, and she's not willing to come to the table with you, you're not in a relationship. You're alone in this construct, this social construct, and it's complete misery. And it's not healthy for your kids.
Thank you, sir. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, that's a good question, Mr. Smith.
Yeah, great question, man. Really good.
Hey, I know we're at the hour. I know we got one more in there. Are you okay for one more on that?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Okay on that? Okay. So, gentlemen, what we'll do is we'll get Parker in here, and then we're going to make sure we know where to go to find Mr. Allred, and then and Adam, just so you know too, man, I'm going to be reaching out to you afterwards. We get a lot of conversations to continue.
Looking forward to it.
Man, but yeah, so dang good. Parker, good to see you, sir.
Yeah, it's been a while. I thought it was very interesting because I haven't been on one of these calls in a while. I went through the program a couple of years ago, but it was funny that I hopped on this call and you're talking about door-to-door sales because I live in California, and I have my whole life. But 2 days ago, I accepted a door-to-door sales job in Wisconsin. So in the next 12 days, I'm picking up my whole life and moving out to Wisconsin to do something I've never done before in an area I'm mostly unfamiliar with. I have a buddy out there. That's the reason I picked that area. But
Wow.
I turned 18, 15 days ago, and now I'm picking up and moving my life out there and doing door-to-door sales. And that's what you were talking about. So my question was pretty simple. It's just, if you were to give one piece of advice to somebody going into the door-to-door sales job industry, what would that piece of advice be?
First of all, Parker, my respect to you, man. That's amazing. And it takes a lot to do what you're doing. It takes a lot to say yes to that. It takes a lot to, how old are you?
15 days since I turned 18. So, yeah.
Okay. So you're light years ahead of where I was at, by the way, when I was 18. Light years ahead, man. And that's also gives me encouragement for the future. As I see a lot of these young guys, there's a separation of the wheat and the tares, so to speak, going on in society right now. And you see people that are more concerned about the truth and leveling up and being authentic. And then you see other people that are just buying into the status quo, the programming and everything else. And I think that's really what the separation of the wheat and tares looks like. So you've put yourself in that camp of moving towards that wheat category, in my opinion. So door-to-door sales is one of the most profound learning experiences I've ever had in my life. And I'm more grateful for what I've learned in door-to-door sales than almost anything else I've learned anywhere else in my life. So there's a number of things that I would tell you to first recognize. One, it's going to be the hardest thing that you've ever done in your entire life. Like it'll break you. It'll get you to breaking point, push you past it. And it's going to keep pushing, and it doesn't let up. It is a very difficult thing, but that's why it's amazing. It's like good. Hard is good. So one is recognizing how difficult it is. And then two is recognizing that your primary purpose out there is not to make sales. Your primary purpose, even though you're going out to make money, that's why you get recruited. It's why we all go out and do it originally. We're like trying to make money. Your primary purpose is to become better. Because when you get out there on the doors, if you focus on the inputs, the success will come. I can't tell you how quick it is. Guys have different learning curves. I always call them the hell weeks. It's usually 2 or 3 weeks of guys knocking straight before they start to kind of figure it out. That's how you pay for your education, because you're getting an education you pay for with blood, sweat, and tears and no cells every day going out. So recognizing that's the process. If you want to get good at this, you have to be able to go through the process. You got to take the hits. And recognizing that it's not really about the outputs, it's about the inputs and what you have direct control over. By the way, what are you selling?
I'm working for a company called True Green, doing some sort of lawn care product. I
Okay.
actually don't really know that much about it.
Yeah, you don't need to
Yeah.
at this point. That's good. You'll get a lot of the technical training stuff out there. So for you, it needs to be a commitment. I don't know exactly what it looks like in lawn care because I haven't ever sold that. But for me, like pest control guys, I don't have my guys come out anymore and say, "Hey, I have a goal. I want to hit this many cells." What I have for them is I say, "Are you willing to hit 100 doors in a day? Are you willing to get 30 decision makers?" Those are things that they have complete control over. And if they'll do that, 100 knocking doors with 30 decision makers, and they do that every single day and they don't let up, the cells will start to come. And they're a byproduct of the real purpose, which is leveling up and getting better. So you commit yourself to those inputs that you have direct control over, which is going to look like work ethic and it's going to look like coaching. So those are the first two things. Guys ask me all the time, what does it take to make a good salesman? And it's not a personality. I've seen introverts that are way better than me. I've seen people who are analytical. I'm not analytical. I'm impulsive and I'm intuitive. I'm not analytical at all. Analytical people, some of the best salespeople I know are guys who are like scientists in their head. Not personalities. I sell with my personality and my ability to connect with people. That's how I do it. It's just different. There's not really a correct personality type. It's really having the ability to work hard when you don't want to, because you're not going to want to. You're not going to want to work hard a lot of times. It's going to get really tough. You're going to get a lot of no's, and you're going to feel really down. And knocking more doors is going to be the last thing in the world you want to do. And you just make yourself do it. So work ethic trumps everything else. And then it's being coachable. Primarily, you teaching yourself on the doors, being self-aware. How did I lose that customer? Instead of being like, "Oh, nobody wanted to buy from me today. Tough neighborhood, sucks for me." No, you own it. You're like, "Okay, why did I lose? I got them to the backyard. We were talking about their lawn care back here, and then I lost interest with them. How did I do that?" And you really are like not critical, but self-aware. Like coming at yourself, like how could you improve? Those two things right there will make you a phenomenal sales rep. And then the last thing, the third one that I tell all my guys is you just have to never quit. Because even if you're working hard and you're coachable, you're going to want to quit many times. Like it's going to hit you for most guys. Some guys don't, but for most guys, they get pushed to those points multiple times in a single summer where they want to quit. And you just have to have that commitment to yourself, like that story in Detroit, like come hell or high water. This isn't about making money. This isn't about being on the leaderboards. This isn't about all these external things that I don't have ultimate control over. This is about me developing myself. And that's going to start with me being somebody who never quits. That way I can trust myself. Because if you want a healthy relationship with yourself, if you want to be able to have respect from other people, you have to respect yourself. And the only way I know someone can respect themselves, the only way I know how someone can respect themselves is when they keep commitments to themselves. It's the only way.
That is right. What do you think about that, sir?
Yeah. No, thank you so much. But no, I think it's going to be very interesting because I'm going to be out in this unfamiliar place doing unfamiliar work. I basically decided to put myself in a situation where just quitting failure is not an option because, I could have taken a sales job out here where I'm still living at home, or I could have taken a job with a more guaranteed pay scale. But no, I'm excited, and I just want to thank you for giving your time to me and all the other young men on this call. And thank you so much.
Thank you. And I'm excited for you, Parker. I'm really excited. You've embarked on an adventure and it's going to be life-changing.
It's awesome, man. Parker, so cool. Parker, when I leave here in a minute to go pick up Morgan, my oldest, she's at work too. I'm gonna give you a phone call, sir.
Sounds good.
Beautiful. Mikey, I see you sleep. So Mikey, I have one
Mike.
like Mikey, I got like 1 minute because I gotta pick Morgan up and we got the live event. Jump on in, brother.
Yeah, bro. This one's for the kids, Adam. I just want to ask you, what scares you, bro? How do we help raise fearless, free-thinking young men and children?
What scares me and how do we raise free-thinking children? Is that what
Free-thinking,
you're asking?
fearless. Yeah, free-thinking, fearless children, man.
Um, What scares me, I guess, kind of two questions, but what scares me fundamentally is being mediocre. Like it's always scared me. Like it's just terrified me. Like I'm like, dude, I don't want to be average. Like I don't want to go through the programming and through the process and just I want at the end of my life to have a freaking epic story to tell. And I want to at the end of my life to be like I laid it all on the table, man. I didn't leave any, there was no gas in the tank at the end of it, man. It was a wild ride, man. So that's always been probably one of the core fears that I've had in my life. And it's driven me to do a lot of things that have been good for me. How do you raise children that aren't that don't buy into the social conditionings? Because right now society is trying its darndest to keep us afraid, and like Matt said earlier, to keep us divided, to keep us broken, to keep us unhealthy. And to me, it's just like again, it guys goes back to kind of what I was talking about earlier. It's meeting your kids where they're at and being interested in them and having real conversations with them. Like my parents, that generation, they didn't talk to us about a whole host of things. It was just like not the thing you did. Like it was just kind of like you were a responsible parent. You put food on the table and a roof over the kids' heads, and you loved them if you were a good parent. But parents often avoided like really complicated questions because I don't know exactly why. Maybe they were afraid that if they started talking about these things, it would manifest. I don't know what the reason is, but I talk to my kids about everything. Everything. I make sure I drive my kids to school every morning. I have my kids 50-50. I have 50% custody with my oldest three, and my wife and I have a baby right now, and we're working on some more. But with my oldest three, my baby obviously isn't going to school, but with my oldest three, I talk to them on the way to school, on the way home from school. I go to practice with them. I do I can work on the move a lot, which is helpful. But I really just try to have these types of conversations to explain what the real world is like and what they're up against and what programming looks like and give examples of that and try to, essentially the stuff I'm doing on social media, I try to do that in my own home, like share with these kids things that I think are really helpful and get them to think freely. Again, I'm not trying to bash them into submission to me. There has to be respect. They've got to respect their dad, or they know they got to respect their mom, or they know there's going to be some serious consequences. But that's very different than me trying to shape the way they think and force them to be a certain way. Like I want my kids to be them. I want to discover them. And I think that's how God is with us. I don't think God wants us to be conformed in some cookie cut mold of what some other person at church looks like. I think God is like, hey, this is your time. I want to discover you just like you want to discover you. I want to see what makes you happy. I'm interested in that. Like, that's what I'm trying to do with my kids.
Freaking love it. Love it. Yeah. Man after our own heart, brother. So I want to do two things. One, let people know, because we put it out. We got a good size audience here too. So I want to make sure people can find you. And the more important question to us as an organization is, how do we support you? So those are the final two questions here. Where do we find you? How do we support you? And then as I take off here, I'm going to call Parker, but when I get out to where I'm getting, I'm going to shoot you a couple more messages too, man, because this is I'm a fan.
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. So Adam Allred Official on social media. I think that's the handle on all the platforms. Come join the party. Happy to see you there. If you guys DM me, I will DM you back. It may take a week or so because there's a lot of other real world stuff that I'm doing, but I will reply to you. So if you have any questions or if you need anything, I feel like that's really important for me to communicate with people that communicate to me. So yeah, come check it out if you feel so inclined. And then as far as supporting me, man, Matt, you did it. I'm glad to be here. This is like the most important work that we can be doing right now as men, is trying to get each other to come together and level each other up. And so just the fact that you invited me onto this, I could be a part of this and share in the energy that you guys have here and the culture that you guys have here is a blessing for me. So thank you.
Honor is absolutely mine. One of the best things that Seth Godin is somebody I've looked up to for a long time in a lot of areas. One of the best things he ever said to me is that you're doing work that matters. And that goes to you as well, sir. Doing work that matters. And so all the respect in the world for that. So super, super grateful, man. Super honored by the time here. And yeah, a lot of conversations to come.
Looking forward to it, Matt. Thanks for having me. All you guys, man, I appreciate it. And super happy I could be here with you guys at the proverbial campfire.
That's right, man. I appreciate you. Guys, give a big thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, sir.
Awesome. Talk soon, brother. Appreciate you.
All right. Looking forward to it, Matt. See you, man.
Sure.